All right, pull up a stool, friend. Pull up a stool. Old Gleepglorp's got a tale for you. A real humdinger. Hick! Don't mind the slurrin'. Had a few too many Nebula nectars, you know. But this story? This one's worth listening to. Even through my fuzzy brain. See that fella over there? Yeah, the one with the 7 eyeballs and the twitchy antennae? Probably a young'un never seen nothing truly interesting. Well, old Gleepglorp, I've seen things, friend. Things that'd make your proboscis curl. And this one time, hick! It involved these Terrans. Now, back in my younger, less lubricated days, the Vraxian Imperium, those big clicky fellas with more teeth than a grobnar sandworm, they were top dogs, see? Galactic bullies stomping around, taking what they wanted. Planets, they just poof 'em if they felt like it. And they set their sights on this little blue marble, this Terra. Hick, Terra. Sounded like a sneeze to a proper Vraxian. The Imperator himself, this big lug Vorlog, all shiny chitin and nasty temper. He was laughing. The Terrans! He'd croak, his voice like rocks grinding in a metal bucket. They're soft, weak. Their weapons are like spitting at a star cruiser. We all believed him, you see. Humans, squishy things, always crying about something. Their broadcasts were all feelings and art and hick, holding hands. We figured it'd be a quick mop-up. 3 solar cycles, Vorlag said, and their world would be a new vacation spot for Vraxian nobles. Picture it. Beaches made of pulverized skyscrapers. Fun for the whole, hick, conquering family. So the fleet jumps in, all bristling with plasma cannons and gravity disruptors. We're expecting some kind of fight, maybe a few pathetic rockets flying around, but nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like walking into an empty void, only with a blue planet hanging there. Where are their defenses? Vorlog's second in command. This skinny fella Krell kept squawking. His little eye stalks were all twitchy. Sensors are clean, not a peep. We were all scratching our... Well, I only got one head, but the Vraxians were clicking their mandibles in confusion. Then the weirdness started. Little blips on the scanners. Fast. Real fast. Coming out of the asteroid belt. Like angry space gnats. What in the blazing galaxies are those? Vorlag bellowed, his voice echoing through the bridge. Some young whippersnapper of an officer stammered. Unidentified. Grand Imperator. Their energy signatures. Minimal. Almost organic? Organic. In space. We all looked at each other. The only organic stuff we usually saw out there was, well, us, and the occasional space slug. Turns out, these organic blips were these tiny little drones the Terrans cooked up. They called them hick, wasps. Little buggers, all sleek and silent. They looked like space insects, all chitinous and sneaky. And their engines, quiet as a Bluebian shadow dancer. We couldn't even track 'em properly. And then, the smell started. This weird, sweet, kinda sickly smell drifting through the ventilation. At first it was just odd. But then things got hairy. Hick. One minute, you're standing at your post, ready to vaporize some squishy human. The next, you're feeling this fear creeping into your guts, like a grungle worm burrowing in your brain. And it wasn't just you. The whole damn ship was going nuts. Big, tough Vraxian warriors were shaken like newborn space jellies. Krell was screaming, "Report! What's happening?" But nobody knew. Guys were jumping at shadows, accusing their best buddies of being space spies. Discipline? Gone. Vanished like a fart in a hurricane. Hick. Then came the other smells. Some made you all droopy and tired, like you hadn't slept in a starlion's age. Others made you want to smash things. I saw 2 hulking Vraxians who'd fought side by side for cycles, suddenly tearing into each other with their claws out. It was a fraggin' mess. Even Vorlag, that big, scary dude, he was looking green around the gills. He kept rubbing his mandibles and looking all twitchy. "What sorcery is this?" he'd roar. "What kind of weapon are these Terran vermin using?" Back on their little blue planet, these humans, they were watching the whole thing on their screens, all calm and collected. This lady, this Anya Sharma, she was the one calling the shots. Cool as a cucumber in a supernova, that one. "Operation Nightingale is in full effect," she said, all prim and proper. Nightingale! Sounded like some kind of space bird to me, but it was tearing the Vraxian fleet apart. And then, just to add insult to injury, these little wasp drones started doing something else. They got all shimmery, vanished right off our sensors. Suddenly, our own ships were bumping into each other like a bunch of drunken space sailors. Navigation systems went kaput. Cruisers were spinning around like toys in a bathtub. Hick, Vorlag, he was fit to be tied. "Hail them!" he bellowed. "Hail the Terrans! Tell them to stop this biological attack." Some poor sap tried to get a signal through. "Grand Imperator, their transmissions. They're not speaking our language. It's all lights and sounds. Real complicated patterns." Complicated. It was like they were showing us pictures. Pictures of their planet. Green fields, blue oceans, funny-looking creatures running around. They showed us families, laughing, holding each other. All sorts of sappy stuff. Hick! It was like they were saying, "This is what you want to destroy, you big bullies. This is what we're fighting for." And for the first time, I saw something different in Vorlag's eyes. He'd seen 1,000,000 planets get blown to bits, never batted an eye. But these pictures, they seemed to get to him, like a little crack in his big, clicky heart. Then this one little ship, all shiny and unarmed, floats out of their planet's orbit. The Olive Branch, they called it. Olive Branch, like they were offering us a space salad. Krell was all for blasting it out of the sky. "Grand Imperator, it's a trick." But Vorlag, he just grunted. "Let it approach." And out stepped this Anya Sharma with a couple of her squishy-looking pals. They walked right onto the bridge of the ironclad Fury, looking like they were just popping down to the space market for some grubnar jerky. Vorlag, this mountain of chitin, he's looking down at this little human like she's a particularly interesting space bug. "Terran," he rasped. "Explain this trickery, this stinking biological warfare." And this Anya, she just looked right back at him, cool as a cool space cucumber. "Grand Imperator Vorlag," she says, her voice all calm and steady. "We didn't want this fight, but when your fleet showed up over our world, ready to wipe us out, we had to use what we had." "What you had?" Krell sneered. "Smelly gas and pretty pictures?" "We showed you that strength isn't just about big guns," Anya shot back. "We defended ourselves without destroying anything. That takes a different kind of power." Then she starts showing us these holograms. And, hick! Let me tell you, these weren't the primitive monkeys we thought they were. They had energy sources we'd never seen. Bioengineering that made our medics look like space tadpoles. Even hints of star drives. They'd been hiding all this tech. "We're not the weaklings you thought," Anya said. "We chose a different path. Exploration, understanding, not just taking what we want. We could have blown your fleet to smithereens, but we didn't." Vorlag, he just stared at the holograms, his mandibles clicking softly. He was surprised, shocked even. "Why?" he finally croaked. "Why not just end us?" And Anya, her face went all soft. "Because, Grand Imperator, we believe in coexisting. We've seen enough fighting in the galaxy. There's gotta be another way, where different species can learn from each other, build something better. Hick. Alliance. That's what she offered him. An alliance with these soft, emotional creatures who just outsmarted the deadliest fleet in the galaxy with smelly gas and pretty pictures. Krell nearly choked on his own spit. Alliance. With these Terrans? But Vorlog, he was looking thoughtful. They humbled us without firing a shot, he rumbled. Maybe they're right. Maybe there's more to strength than just smashing things. It wasn't easy, friend. The Vraxians are stubborn as a petrified space slug, and a lot of humans were still scared and angry. But slowly, they started talking. Human scientists showed them new tech. Human artists showed them, well, art. Weird stuff, but the Vraxians were curious. And you know what? It kinda worked. The Vraxians, they started thinking different. Maybe not every problem needed a plasma cannon solution. Maybe there was something to this whole understanding thing. Hick! I even saw a Vraxian warrior try to paint a flower once. Looked like a mangled space leech, but the effort was there. Other species in the galaxy, like the Hadron Confederacy, these floaty crystal beings who mostly kept to themselves, they started paying attention. They were all like, who are these weird squishies who made the big bad Vraxians look like confused hatchlings? The Hadron, they were all about knowledge and thinking. They talked to the humans for ages, trying to figure 'em out. This Ambassador Theron, a real brainy crystal dude, he was fascinated by how humans thought. He called their evolution solution-seeking. Said since they weren't born with big claws and teeth, they had to use their brains to get out of trouble. Hick. And you know what? He was right. That's how they beat the Vraxians. Not with bigger guns, but with smarter brains. And a bit of stinking gas. So here we are, years later. The Vraxian Imperium ain't stomping around so much anymore. They're collaborating, working with the humans. Even the Hadron are joining in on the fun, exploring new planets, learning new things. All because a bunch of weak humans figured out that sometimes the best way to win a fight is to make your enemy hick. Really confused and maybe a little bit nauseous. So next time you see a human, don't judge them by their squishy exterior. They might just have a secret weapon, like a really potent fart. Hick! Just kidding. Mostly. But remember old Gleepglorp's tale. Sometimes the smallest, seemingly weakest creatures can have the biggest surprises. Now buy your old pal another Nebula nectar, will ya? This story ain't over yet. Not by a long shot. Hick!